everyone, morning or afternoon. Welcome to day 2 or day 3 as it were, in terms of the contentment of the Ayurvedic Contentment Challenge. Today we're speaking about the third contentment ritual of the week, which is all about the use of herbal medicines, herbal allies, how to use herbs, to really elevate our mood, to buffer against stress and anxiety, and just to support our emotional health, our emotional well-being. Morning Jenny, morning Sally. Everyone hear me okay? Hopefully I'm coming through nice and clear. So again, herbal medicines have such a powerful role to play in this concept of swasthya, in this concept of just creating this emotional robustness, this level of swasthya that is just kind of protected, I suppose, from the outside world. And I can't wait to talk about it because herbal medicines are an absolute passion of mine. So before I get into that, I just want to say a really big thank you for all of your engagement over the challenge so far, and particularly over the last 24 hours. All the photos, all of the comments, all of the questions. That Facebook page, the challenge Facebook group, is becoming really dynamic, really energized, really kind of a real community. And I think community is the bedrock of self-care, because it creates that peer support, particularly at the moment with lockdown and obviously a very abject lack of community. So it's such a privilege to see all of your comments, and it seems like pranayama has gone down an absolute storm. Those of you who've never used pranayama before, who were new to it or hadn't used it in a while, we've had some amazing comments and responses to how pranayama is making everyone feel. So I'm super pleased about that, because I think, like I said, for me, it's one of the most just transformative self-care practices that there is in any framework. So I'm so pleased that you guys are getting on with it. So today, and also yesterday, we obviously spoke about the gut connection. We spoke about gut health. We spoke about making our own probiotics, the taka with the yogurt. We spoke about the herbal infusion. We spoke about the prebiotics. So hopefully some of you can have a bit of an experiment with making that taka drink, going out and buying the yogurt, looking at we posted up the link to the bitter vegetable video, which is about 15 minutes, and hopefully some of you got a chance to check that out as well. So now it's about moving on to the third ritual, like I said, which is all about herbal medicines. And herbal medicines are an absolute passion of mine. I love everything to do with them. I think if we look at the way healthcare is going, if we look at, particularly in the Western world, the time bomb is chronic disease. It's not acute problems, it's chronic problems. All this idea about pandemics with COVID. We were already in a pandemic before COVID came around. It's a pandemic of chronic disease, cancers, heart diseases, neurological conditions, arthritis, depression. Chronic disease is just mushrooming. And self-care, Ayurveda, herbal medicine has such a mind-blowing impact upon preventing and also treating chronic illness. We've done loads and loads of research when I was working at Southampton on the use of herbal medicines. A big part of our clinical practice now is herbal medicines, and I love everything to do with it. I love foraging for them, I love making them, I love preparing them, I love using them, I love experimenting with them. I love everything to do with it, because to me, herbal medicines are kind of the ultimate form of health autonomy and empowerment, particularly if we can start learning how to grow and forage for our own, rather than having to rely on buying things and whatnot. And I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later in the week. But what I want to talk about today is contextualizing herbal medicines in the context of this challenge, which is obviously about contentment and happiness and mood and emotional well-being. And before we dive into the actual herbs themselves and why they're so specific, my mum's just signed up, just joined in. Hello, mum. Hello, everyone else as well. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Sydney. Hi, Anna. And also, it's our daughter's 4th birthday today. So if a horde of screaming kids come running past, then that's why. So before I dive into kind of the specifics of why we're looking at the herbs, we're looking at how to use them and why they're so effective. I just want to talk very briefly about why herbal medicines are so important, almost mandatory in the context of supporting our emotional health. And the two things I want to touch on briefly are the nervous system and our kind of adrenal and hormonal system, okay? Because when we're talking about herbs today, we're going to be talking about them in two capacities. One is in a kind of a chronic low dose capacity. How can we top up the body? And this is something that we're hell-bent on advocating. This idea that if we're supporting the body day after day, month after month, year after year, we're topping the body up with a variety of these clinically proven herbal compounds that elevate mood, elevate hormone function, are proven to support the body neurologically to feel happier and healthier. If we're having a small amount, day after day on a permanent basis, it kind of never allows our mood to drop, our contentment to drop below a certain level. It's this idea of chronic contentment. And herbal medicines have the ability to do that almost by themselves. But if we add in the other components, if we add in the pranayama and the gut connection and all the other bits and pieces, suddenly the framework becomes very, very strong. Okay, so we're talking about herbs in terms of daily low dose as a way of maintaining chronic contentment, with topping up the body. But I also want to talk briefly on acute management, okay, because life is stressful and we all go through peaks and troughs and we all go through times, good times and bad times. And during the bad times, for whatever may cause that, when we're chronically stressed or chronically anxious or feeling overwhelmed or uncertain or scared or fearful, we can use herbs in higher doses, in acute doses, to really support our body, support our mind, support our adrenal system, support our nervous system through that period of high acute stress. And that's something that I think everyone needs to know about, because it can have such a powerful effect upon protecting us from the damage that kinds of acute stress can cause, okay, which is what I want to talk about today. But why, when we're talking about herbs in this context, like I said, we're talking about herbs and their ability to affect the nervous system and their ability to affect the endocrine, the hormone systems of the body. And the reason that's so important is because our nervous system, to feel, we spoke about this idea of swastha, this concept called swastha, where we're feeling in charge, we're feeling controlled, we're feeling content, we're feeling peaceful, we're feeling happy. To have that in our life, we need our nervous system to be functioning well. We need our nervous system to be behaving well, functioning well, regulating and managing the body well. In all of its, 1,000,001 variables, all of the neurochemicals, the neurotransmitters, all of the subtleties that the nervous system is responsible for managing and regulating. We need those variables to be working effectively and efficiently. And when they are, what happens? Our brain, our brainwave activity starts working. We feel more. We have the neurological framework we need to feel happier, to feel more contented. And the ability of herbal medicines to regulate and optimize the functioning of our brain and our nervous system is, not just time tested from particularly the Ayurvedic framework, which goes back 5,000 years, but from the Western clinical evidence, we know herbal medicines can help regulate the functionality of our brain and our nervous system to make us happier, healthier people. So I want to talk about that. And I also want to talk about how we can use herbs to support our hormone and our adrenal system, because it's probably one of the parts of the body that is least well adapted to the world we're living in at the moment. We didn't evolve with a 24-hour culture. We didn't evolve with checking emails at 11 o'clock at night. We didn't evolve with social media. We didn't evolve with traffic and commutes and mortgages and this, that, and the other. And almost our body kind of hasn't caught up with having the resources to manage the chronicity of the stress and anxiety we experience. And what happens when we're feeling I'm not talking major stresses like someone dying or bankruptcy or unemployment. I'm talking about kind of chronicity in terms of just feeling overwhelmed, feeling busy, feeling a little bit stressed from whatever's causing that. And what that does is it puts us into cortisol overdrive. So cortisol, most of you have heard of cortisol probably as one of our main stress hormones. And when we're constantly and chronically kind of low grade stressed, I suppose, our adrenal system we become burnt out. We become cortisol hyperactive, and that can lead to immune impairment. It affects the way the brain works. It means we have less serotonin and less dopamine uptake, and we become flatter. We become, more stressed, more anxious. Our mood drops. Whereas if we help regulate the cortisol system, if we help balance it, if we help compensate it, if we help support and nourish it, then even if we are going through periods of stress, we're giving the body, we're giving the hormone system, the endocrine system, the resources it needs to feel happier, to feel safer, to feel more content, to feel more at peace, independent of the stresses we're facing in the world outside. And again, the Western evidence around the ability of herbal medicines to do that, to support the adrenal system, to support the hormone system, to make us happy and healthier is incredibly robust. Clinically trialed outcomes, and that's what I want to focus in on now. So in the workbook we listed. I've just got a couple of questions coming up here. I couldn't get the fennel seeds for the gut tea. That's fine. Absolutely loads of benefits. That's fine. Christina, what's the difference between making taka and simply eating a teaspoon of yogurt? I'll come to that at the end if that's okay, Christina. I'm just going to stay on the theme of herbs, and I'll come back to that one if that's okay. So in the workbook, we listed a selection of herbal medicines, some of which are culinary that you can get from Tesco's or Sainsbury's, and 2 of which are medicinal. The ashwagandha and the chyawanprash. Okay, I know a lot of you will probably have heard all about ashwagandha and all about chyawanprash, but I want to talk about this in detail, okay, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about it. And I'm contextualizing this around this idea of chronic contentment. We're talking low dose herbs that we're putting into the body every day. And that could be sprinkled into porridge in the morning. It could be added into smoothies. It could be added into cooking. It could be added into drinks. This is culinary herbalism. This is culinary herbal medicine where we're trying to support the body, not with taking supplements and this, that, and the other, but by adding herbs into the food we eat and the drinks or the recipes we prepare. And in the workbook, I specifically mentioned ashwagandha, nutmeg, cardamom and cinnamon, and also extra virgin coconut oil. And the reason, and of those, ashwagandha and nutmeg are the heavyweights. Okay, they are the ones that are just biochemically proven. And the reason that ashwagandha, for me, I'm convinced, I've said it loads of times before, if the Bill Gates Foundation gave us £5 million for a research project, what I would want to look at is if we got the majority of adults in the UK taking ashwagandha every day, I'm convinced that we could change the public health profile of our country within about 2 to 3 years, because ashwagandha is a whole body tonic herb, and I could talk for a whole day about why it is just custom built for the Western world that we're living in and all the craziness that comes with it. But obviously I'm going to focus in on this contentment challenge. And ashwagandha is something called an adaptogen, an adaptogenic herb. And an adaptogen is an area of herbal medicines that is just mind-blowingly intelligent and mind-blowingly powerful, because the reason they're called adaptogens is that they adapt to our individual biochemical bodies. So if we all sat down now and we took 2,000 milligrams of ashwagandha, the chemicals in that ashwagandha would do very different things in all of our bodies, because our bodies are all so different. My stress levels might be higher or lower than you. My immune counts might be higher and lower than yours. So when the chemicals in ashwagandha enter into the blood, it adapts what it finds to induce normality. So if our feel-good hormones are too low, it raises them up. If our stress hormones are too high, it brings them down. If we haven't got enough oxytocin to make us feel happy, it raises it up. So it's continually working to support the balance of the body, particularly the balance of the emotional body, our feel-good hormones, our feel-good chemicals. And there's not a Western drug in existence that can adapt what it does day by day, hour by hour, in fact. And I think Ashwagandha doesn't work quickly. It takes a while to build up. It reaches full effect after about 4 weeks, and it's a herb that is designed to take indefinitely for the rest of your life. That's the way it's designed. We know it's clinically safe to do that. I'll talk about contraindications in a minute. But Holly and I take 2,000 milligrams of ashwagandha every day, and I've done that for as long as I can remember. I'm 72, so that's working pretty well. I wish. But it is anti-aging. It's got all these benefits. But in the context of the Contentment Challenge, we know it elevates mood. We know it buffers against stress. It protects the body against stress. It protects the body against anxiety. It protects the body against overwhelm. So and those things are probably the biggest threats to our contentment. What are the things that suck our contentment down? It's stress, it's rushing, it's anxiety, it's feeling pushed and pulled. By protecting our nervous system against those factors, our contentment will naturally stay higher. But it does more than just protect against the bad, it elevates the good. We know ashwagandha elevates the secretion of our feel-good hormones. It lifts the mood, and it has a profound impact upon that. And Holly's just put there, it helps limit my hormonal rage when Sam doesn't take the bins out. I'm not sure it's quite that effective, but it's pretty good. It's to me, if we're thinking about this idea of swastika, if we're thinking about this idea of contentment, I don't think there's a herb on a medicine on the planet, anywhere, Ayurvedic or otherwise, that helps to create the biochemical and neurological foundation for contentment. Okay, and the beauty of it is it's incredibly safe. It's been tested for the last 40 years. It's got clinical trial data behind it. We've prescribed it to thousands and thousands of people over the years. We've never had We've never had an adverse reaction. We've never had a side effect profile. Okay, so ashwagandha it's brilliant. It's also an immunostimulant. It's antiviral. It's just brilliant. Okay. So that's the main herb that I want to talk about in the context of today. But the other herbs, nutmeg is equally powerful, okay? Because nutmeg is something called psychoactive. It's a psychoactive drug. It's a psychoactive herbal medicine. And when it comes to supporting contentment, there's very clear research why it's so powerful. Because it's got something in it called monoamine oxidative inhibitors, okay, which is a chemical that inhibits the body's ability to absorb dopamine and serotonin. Okay, so by inhibiting that mechanism, we have more dopamine and more serotonin circulating in the body, which means we have the mood enhancing benefits of those two happy hormones. So if we're regularly having nutmeg in our diet, if we're having 1/2 to 1 teaspoon a day, where it's clinically proven to increase the volume of serotonin, dopamine and serotonin that are circulating in the body, which means we get this discernible impact upon mood and contentment and kind of emotional well-being. And nutmeg is incredibly strong in that capacity. Okay, and I think it works quickly. Ashwagandha takes a while to build up, whereas nutmeg works within a couple of days. So if you're looking to really elevate your mood, adding a teaspoon of nutmeg into your porridge or making the mood milk, which I'll talk about in a minute, or whatever it is, we know it affects the biochemistry of the brain, and we know it affects the biochemistry of contentment. Okay. But it is a strong herb. Okay, nutmeg, if you have more than about 1.5 to 2 teaspoons a day, it can be psychotropic. It can make us hallucinate. It can make your legs tingle. Certain cultures use it to almost transcend. Okay, there's all kinds of research about the brain activity it induces, but we're not interested in that so much. So the recommended dose is 1/2 to 1 teaspoon a day. If you're having 1/2 to 1 teaspoon a day, it doesn't cause any of those problems. It's all reward for no risk. Okay, so Nutmeg is really key. I also speak about the cardamom powder and cinnamon powder. They all contain antioxidants that help to increase the circulation of our feel-good hormones. They elevate mood. They're mood tonic herbs. Okay, so the big four: ashwagandha at the top as a medicinal herb, nutmeg, cardamom, and cinnamon that we're adding into our food, into our drinks, into our porridge. Okay, and if the more we can integrate those into our diet, and the more we can support our body with those as the weeks and months and years progress, I'm convinced, I know from the evidence, I know from personal experience, I know from professional experience that it holds up our hormonal profile to a point where we don't dip below it. And by not dipping below it, our level of contentment and mood and happiness never kind of gets below a default setting. And that's what swastika is, this ability to progress through life with a default level of contentment that we never dip below. And herbs have this such a specific capacity to facilitate that. So I just want to run through a couple of, because there's quite a few questions coming up here about ashwagandha. So ashwagandha is incredibly safe. Okay, the side effect profile is very, very minimal. There's two things I want to flag up. The first thing is that there's a theoretical concern that you shouldn't take ashwagandha if you're on thyroid medication. So if you're on levothyroxine because you've got hypoactive thyroid function, or you've had your thyroid removed or whatever, in theory, in theoretical research, there's a concern that ashwagandha can interact with the drugs you're taking, the levothyroxine. Okay, but it's purely theoretical. We've used ashwagandha with hundreds of people who are on thyroid medication, and they've never had problems. But you do need to kind of lower the dose to about 1,000 milligrams a day. Okay, that's the general consensus. Okay, so if you're on thyroid medication, it's not that ashwagandha is off limits, it's just that you need to lower the dose. Or the other option is you switch to another adaptogenic herb like ginseng or astragalus or rhodiola, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Okay, and the only other thing is that ashwagandha is a heating herb. So Ray's put up a comment there that I was going to bring up anyway, which is good because you've asked. So ashwagandha is a heating herb. It's not like ginger. It's not really pungent, but it is warming. So for things like heartburn and reflux, if you're having it on its own as a capsule, or it can sometimes exacerbate heartburn or reflux. And the way around that is to mix it into a tonic, which is why the mood milk is so effective. Any other questions? I'll come back to the questions in a second. So the challenge today's contentment, the contentment ritual for tomorrow, the day 3 contentment ritual, is to look at how you can increase the consumption of those 4 herbs into your diet. And it might be that you take 2,000 milligrams of ashwagandha in capsule form. Take 2 capsules. Usually the capsules are in 500 milligrams. So if you take 2 in the morning, that gives you 1,000 milligrams in the morning. Take 2 in the evening, that gives you another 1,000 milligrams in the evening. That gives you 2,000 a day. 2,000 milligrams a day you can take for the rest of your life, and that's what we take. I take 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening. I've done that for as long as I can remember. So it might be that that's your challenge. That might be enough. Or it might be that you say, okay, I'm going to do that, but I'm also going to add in more nutmeg into my porridge. I'm going to add more cinnamon into my smoothies. I'm going to add more cardamom into my cooking. Or it might be that you combine it all into the mood milk. So in this morning's email, you would have got the full recipe for making the Ayurvedic mood milk. And the Ayurvedic mood milk, there's lots of variations to these, but that tonic, which is a drink, you can make it with dairy milk, you can make it with non-dairy milk. It combines all of those herbs. It combines ashwagandha with nutmeg, with cardamom, with cinnamon, with a little bit of ginger, a little bit of turmeric. It's a whole body tonic. It's anti-inflammatory, it's immunostimulating, it's energizing, but it's obviously got all of the herbs we've just spoken about condensed into one remedy. Okay, and you know, I'm not saying you need to take one of those every day. It might be that you want to. The other benefit is that it does taste amazing. It's like a chai latte kind of taste. You can add a little bit of raw honey into it if you want to sweeten it, or some dates or something. But, you know, it's well worth experimenting with, because if you have, you know, because we've had a lot of questions over the last, well, since Sunday, about snacking, because we're advocating this eating 3 meals a day, because that's the way our body was designed to consume food. And by eating 3 meals a day, we know that has a big impact upon our gut health, and therefore our happy hormones, like we spoke about yesterday. But a lot of people, myself included actually, I sometimes feel the need for a snack, particularly between lunch and dinner. And the mood milk is a brilliant option for a snack at about 3-ish in the hour, 3 or 4, equidistant between lunch and dinner, because it's got lots of energizing compounds in it. It's got carbohydrate in it. It's got protein in it. It's got all of the energizing properties of the herbs. But it's super easy to digest. It's not solid food, so it's not taxing the digestive system, and it gives you all of those herbs in one foul swoop. So, you know, if you're having a bit of a rough time, or if you're, because I know there's quite a few people on here who are having a rough time at the moment. We've had some messages from people who are going through some pretty difficult times for a variety of reasons. In terms of, you know, I'm not going to go into it, obviously it's personal, but we've had some really heartfelt messages, and we're really grateful for those, because that the whole aim of this challenge is to help people. And if you're one of those people that is going through a hard time, or you're having a lot of problems, then for me personally, the mood milk is probably what I would aim to integrate, because it condenses everything into one go. And in the space, it takes about 5 minutes to make. It tastes great, and you're giving your body pretty much all of the biochemical and hormonal support you need in one foul swoop. And we've used that a lot we use it quite a lot in some of the cancer patients, particularly those who have finished chemotherapy and have taken a bit of a battering. And you see it induces a discernible impact within a couple of days, really. And that's probably the nutmeg that speeds it up. But it really is it affects the physical body, it affects the emotional body, it affects the nervous system, it affects our hormones, and it protects the body against stress and anxiety. So it depends upon where your challenge, I suppose, for day 3 depends upon where you fall on the spectrum. If everything's ticking over nicely, you're not feeling particularly stressed, you're feeling pretty happy and contented already, then just look to add more of those herbs into your diet just to help maintain that default setting. If you're at the other end of the spectrum, you're having a difficult time, then I would try and be more proactive with those herbs by using the mood milk or whatever. But that leads me on to the second point, because we've spoken about this idea of chronic contentment, using herbs to maintain that default setting. But I just want to touch briefly on acute situations. Say you're going through a really rough time. Say you're really struggling. How can we use herbs and herbal medicines to support our body and support our mind through that very difficult period of time? So someone's died, or you're going through all of the 101 stresses that that COVID and lockdown has brought into the fray. How can we use herbal medicines to really support the body through those periods of really acute difficulties? And there's 2 things I want to focus on specifically. One is up the ashwagandha. Xanthi, you can shut that door, please. Sorry, lots of kids running around. One is to up the ashwagandha. So if we're having difficult times, or we're feeling completely overwhelmed, you can comfortably up the ashwagandha to 3,000, 4,000 milligrams a day. It's completely safe. That's still well within the upper dose limit. And just by doubling the dose, you're giving the body more of the chemicals in ashwagandha that help support the system. Okay, so the first thing, if you're someone who's going through an acute period of stress or anxiety, you're feeling really flat, really low, the first thing I would look to do is increase the ashwagandha. The other option is that you use something called rhodiola. Okay, rhodiola roots. So rhodiola is another Ayurvedic herb, and it's a dried root. It's often called Arctic root. So rhodiola is a incredibly interesting herb, because it only grows in pretty diabolical, situations. It lives in high latitudes. It lives roughly around the snow line. The worse the soil quality, the better it grows. Hardly anything can kill it. It can survive temperatures from plus 30 degrees to minus 30 degrees. It's this bulletproof herbal medicine. And it imparts that robustness into what it does to the human body. And again, there's about 30 years of clinical research into rhodiola. And the reason I'm just flagging up rhodiola is because it works phenomenally quickly. And it's revered as the most powerful adaptogenic of them all. So whereas ashwagandha, ashwagandha takes 2, 3, 4 weeks to begin to work, and it works regularly and consistently on the body long term. But if we want a really heavy hit, if we're having an awful time and we're really struggling and the contentment and the happiness and the mood are on the floor and we really need to support ourselves, rhodiola is the herb that we turn to every single time, personally and professionally. And because it's more power, it's the most powerful adaptogen that's ever been identified in herbal medicine. It supports the adrenal system against stress. It elevates mood. It protects the nervous system. It protects the brain. It increases physical energy. It increases emotional energy. And you can get it in lots of forms. You can buy it in the dried root like that, and you can make teas out of it. You can buy it in capsules. You can buy it in liquid tinctures. It's super easy to get. Any health food shop will sell rhodiola these days. And actually, because ashwagandha and rhodiola are such important herbal medicines, what we're actually going to do, thinking about it, is that we're going to send you guys to the full herb profiles for ashwagandha and rhodiola. Okay, the full detailed herb profiles of what they are, how to use them, how to make medicines out of them, and what they do. So you've got the full resource on how to use these two herbs, because I think they're brilliant ones to have in your self-care arsenal, so that if things go wrong or you're struggling, you know where to turn, because they work incredibly well. Okay, so we'll send those out as an email probably later on today. Okay, so you'll get 2 full herb profiles. The only thing to be aware of with rhodiola is that if you're on immunosuppressing drugs, if you're on things like methotrexate, because you've got an autoimmune problem, then those drugs are obviously trying to bring your immune system down, whereas rhodiola increases it. So you've got a conflict there. So if you're on autoimmune medication, then stay clear of rhodiola. But other than that, it's an incredibly safe herb that's got a virtually non-existent side effect profile. If you're going through a tough time, 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams of rhodiola is a brilliant way of supporting your body and your mind. So if you're going through a rough time, you've got 2 options: up the ashwagandha or add in rhodiola. Karen, can you give me an idea of how much 2,000 milligrams is in teaspoons, please, as my ashwagandha is in powder? It's a really difficult question to answer that, because it depends upon how it's been ground up, and it depends on the density of the powder, because if it's been ground into a really fine dust-like powder, it's obviously a lot more compared to if it's a chunkier powder. So for me personally, I think it makes sense to weigh it. If you've got scales, work out exactly how much 2,000 milligrams is, open. I would personally want to measure it, because it depends on the density of the powder. Okay, Karen, so I think you need to be quite specific with that. Where can I get safe quality ashwagandha? That's another very good question. If you're buying any herbal medicine, it needs to be a herbal medicine that is tested and licensed in the EU. You don't want to start buying herbs on Amazon that have come from China or India that aren't licensed, because they could be laced with heavy metals, they could be laced with all kinds of nasties. We use the Cytoplan ashwagandha because it's EU licensed, it's organic and it's certified, and they come in 500 milligram capsules, so it makes it super easy. Okay, so Ray, that's where we prefer to get it from. There's loads of other good brands, Lambert's, Fuchsi, they're all very, very good. My husband does not like milk, so if you don't like milk, you don't need to use dairy milk for the mood milk. You could use coconut milk or oat milk or hemp milk or almond milk or whatever. Okay, if he doesn't like any milk, Ada, then you can mix it into water. You could mix it into lots of different forms, smoothies, anything like that. Okay. Bridget, so ashwagandha in the mood milk is okay for digestive problems. You're absolutely fine. You can have it alongside the triphala. I mix ashwagandha and the Ceylon cinnamon together and put it in my organic coffee. Yeah, that's another really good idea. You can add ashwagandha and things like cinnamon, even nutmeg, and obviously cardamom. They can all go into coffee as well. So there's lots you can do with them. But actually, when we send you the herb profile, if you're interested in rhodiola, we've got this amazing rhodiola fudge recipe, which is a completely natural, healthy freezer fudge, which you stick in your freezer and you just have it as you want it. And it's got a very high concentration of rhodiola and it tastes amazing. So that's well worth exploring as well. Yeah, Cytoplan, Ray, the ashwagandha brand we recommend is Cytoplan, which is a brilliant company. Like that. Okay, so, and in terms of when you have it, it doesn't really matter when you have the ashwagandha. You can have it in the morning, you can have it in the afternoon, you can have it in the evening, likewise with the mood milk. It doesn't really matter, okay? But the challenge today, the challenge for tomorrow rather, the day 3 contentment ritual challenge is to try and make sure you're adding in a selection of these herbs into your body to support your nervous system, your hormone system, and therefore your levels of contentment and mood, okay? Doesn't matter how, whether you're adding it into porridge, whether you're taking the mood milk, whether you're having it in the capsules, but I just think it's really important that we're supporting our body with these herbal compounds because they're so powerful. Sue, but need to clarify the use of rhodiola with multivitamins. Yeah, so again, we mentioned this in the herb profile. If you're having rhodiola, it's often, it's not kind of bulletproof, but the general consensus is that if you're having rhodiola, you want to take it at least 90 minutes before or after any form of mineral. So if you're taking multivitamins, iron, zinc, potassium, magnesium, you want to leave about 90 minutes between the rhodiola and the multivitamin. Okay, so Sue, it's not that you can't have it, just make sure you're giving it a bit of time. Okay. I bought triphala powder, but I just can't take the taste in water. How can I take it so it's more palatable? Again, any form of dairy or non-dairy milk is a great way of masking the taste of herbs, particularly if you can add honey into it. So you could actually add the triphala into the mood milk if you wanted to. Okay, that's a good way of doing it. Can you post the fudge recipe? Yeah, actually, Tracy, I know you're on the Ayurvedic Mentor. If you go to the herb profiles, you pull up rhodiola, the fudge recipe is in the bottom of the herb profile there, but you'll get it. I'll send it out today. I can post it up on the Facebook page as well. So I hope that's been helpful. It's a really important one for me because I think once you start getting into herbal medicines, it changes everything. It opens up this whole new world where it just impacts upon every facet of life: physical health, emotional health, immune health, digestive health, everything. Okay, and I think if more people had a foundational knowledge of how to use herbal medicines in terms of shop bought ones, in terms of foraging, in terms of growing, we could just transform health. Kathy, are you accepting new members to the Ayurvedic Mentor? We'll be talking about the Ayurvedic Mentor on Friday and whatnot, but we will be soon, Kathy. Holly, I'll send the herb profiles with tomorrow's email. Okay, yeah, so you'll get the herb profiles tomorrow. Okay, but actually, we're doing a bonus session on Friday about Marma therapy and how Marma therapy can be used to affect kind of contentment and swastika. I'm a huge fan of Marma therapy. It's something that we can use at home really easily. But we might do a little bonus session maybe next week. We might do a little bit about foraging because it seems like there's quite an interest there, and we're just moving into foraging season now. Cleavers, chickweed, nettles, dandelion, ground ivy, they're all coming out, and we can make and stock a home apothecary probably 60 or 70% exclusively for free. So we might do a little bit on foraging as well for you guys, we'll see. But other than that, have a lovely day, everyone. Try and get some pranayama in if you've got time. Don't stress if you can't. Try and maybe support the gut with some of the things we spoke about yesterday. If you can begin to explore the herbs, brilliant, but just do as much as you can. Do it effortlessly, and have a good day. And I will look forward to speaking to you at 12 o'clock tomorrow. Really interesting one tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow and Thursday, some really, really powerful ones. The cell silence and the concept of silence is mind-blowing with regards to Western neurological research and there's whole loads there. So I can't wait for tomorrow. It's a really big one for me. But have a lovely day. Speak to you soon, and I'll see you tomorrow.